Welcome back, listeners, to another year and another anniversary episode with my good friend Daniel. For those that are new, each year Daniel and I connect to reflect on our businesses, personal growth, and changes in our lives over the past 12 months. It's always enlightening and motivating to see how much can happen in just 1 year's time, and this year has been no exception. From new ventures, challenges faced, skills gained, and outlooks shifted. In this episode, we cover handling the pandemic aftermath on our businesses, the continued rise of AI, thoughts on time management, setting healthy boundaries, unwinding, and self-care, and what new directions we see unfolding in the year ahead. There are plenty of takeaways for entrepreneurs and individuals alike. So whether you need a dose of inspiration, want to implement better systems and routines, or learn how to care for yourself and your time better, there will be something for you here. Daniel's wisdom and perspectives are invaluable, and I'm grateful for another year of friendship and mutual growth. I hope you enjoy this deep dive into the ever-changing landscape of business, mindset, and life. Let's jump right into our 3rd year anniversary episode together. Hey Dan, my man, welcome back to another 3rd year anniversary together.
Yeah, wow. Good to be back, man. Good to be back. How crazy. 3 years?
Yes, 3 years.
That's
man.
wild.
3 years. Each year we've done a check-in episode with each other,
3 years.
updating each other, what's been happening over the past year,
Yes.
what's been good, what's been bad, what's been happening. And so here we are.
Good to be back, man. Good to be back. Good to be healthy.
So we check in on a regular basis, so we know how each other are and stuff like that.
Correct.
But for the people who listen in, they're not so sure what's been happening in our lives. I'm going to kick off with, let's look at your past year, particularly in business.
Yeah, okay.
What were some of your key goals or focuses over the past year? What went well? What challenges came up for you? Deep and heavy straight away.
Wow. Great question. Man, the goal was regrowth, to be honest. After the 2 years that preceded this one, we had a horrible time. And my goal was essentially to reestablish myself within my business and reestablish the brand within the little sphere that it exists. I'm not sure we've reached those goals as to how I wanted them to be reached, but that's down to many different factors. Not to mention that I believe that we're only now feeling the true extent of what society looked like for the last 2 years.
Yes.
So now so very quickly it's become a year of refocus.
Yes. I think
and evolution. Funny because that's what it was supposed to be, but it didn't quite work out that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. I think a lot of businesses are going through that after effect, or the true effect of COVID after that 2-year period.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah.
now a lot of people are feeling it. There's no more financial incentives. There is no more grants, no more money flowing around. And with the rise in inflation and the cost of living going up and all of those things combined, it's making it pretty tough for businesses. Oh, I wouldn't say for everyone. I'm sure there's some that are doing well, but yeah, for you and I, it's been a challenging space.
Yeah, I suspect service-based businesses are the ones that are doing it the toughest, right? Because most services are based on the trade of economy, which means you need people to do them. And to do that, you need space, be it logistically or physically. Yeah, so it is becoming a bit of a challenge, but it was interesting. I'd had this chat just yesterday or maybe the day before, and it is time for a paradigm shift. Society might not necessarily go back to the way that we know it in terms of people don't want to go back to the office, and fair. If they don't have to, they might never have to, but then that might just change the way all business works. Like, I had this conversation with somebody else just last week, and they were complaining about coffee. And I went, You're not allowed to complain about coffee because you don't want to drink coffee at the coffee shop. And they're like, yeah, but they take too long to make my order. I said, there's not 20 of you to be there to serve. So there'll only be one person serving. So you now need to be more patient. The conversation was quite interesting. Where they're like, oh, and they burnt my coffee. And I'm like, well, yeah, this person's now serving 15, not 20, and they're doing it on their own. The consumer no longer has a right to complain, as far as I'm concerned, because the consumer might not be doing their job on the other side. Now, that doesn't say we should be pumping out bad product. It does become a stretch, which I'm not sure that people that aren't in business understand.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It's been challenging for a lot of businesses in terms of expenses. So a lot of people have had to cut back, and they've had to do it to make it work, because if you don't reduce your costs at the moment, you're going to go belly up. And reducing your staff and the way the flow of your workplace is and all of those things will impact service. But it has to be. There is no other choice right now. And I think the consumers have to understand that a bit more and be a bit more empathetic about, okay, man, times are tough for a lot of people, for themselves, for the businesses. So we all got to give each other a bit more love in a sense.
Totally. And then that's that one, I don't want to feel like I'm hacking on the consumer, but also that same need that they have for service, we need to give to the worker. They're copying it. Being a bit more under the pump, not having as much resource available to them, not having as much time. We forget that the people serving are also people. And they're doing it just as tough because they need to pay electricity at home, they need to pay rent, or they have to pay mortgages, or they have to pay school fees and childcare and petrol and do groceries just like everybody else, right? It's not like just because people work in service that they're void to the responsibilities of life. They're just doing their job, right? Yeah, it's really interesting. What I'm feeling, that there's never been a greater divide between people that work in service and then people that work in, we'll just say corporate, for lack of a better term. Because you've got the people that work at home, seem to live by their rules, which is completely great. And then your people that work in service seem to work by the old rules. Like, you will never be able to have a restaurant that doesn't serve food live.
Yeah.
So it doesn't work. So yeah, it seems to be, it's quite interesting to feel this misunderstanding of modality. Yeah, but again, like, I'm not here to say anything needs to change. I've just got to change the way I do things. Because I did point this out to somebody. Yeah, if it works for you to work from home, then I'm just not going to work for you for 4 days a week. And they're like, what? You have to? I'm like, no, I don't. I'll just work 3 days a week. And I'll do 2 days a week from home. Oh, but that inconvenience me. That seems like it's your problem. The convenience of service needs to be taken back as well. What's the positive twist on all this?
Exactly what I was about to say. What is going well?
Yeah. Oh, man, lots. Like, lots. It's weird. The personal mental study that I've taken on for a while now, which you know is about resetting mindset and time. And so, again, these are always conversations that I have. And I was shown last night like a demo of a company of a AR VR app called Whist. And it was about how you can go and look into your memories, right? Using your Quest, like your Meta Quest or the Apple Eye or whatever. And I was like, I couldn't think of a more horrible program in my life. And people are like, what? Well, this is horrible. Like, why would I want to do this? And they're like, oh, to go back over your fun memories. And I said, they're gone. I'm not interested. And they said to me, well, don't you sometimes wish that you could relive memories with your friends? And I'm like, no, not at all. Never. Because I found, even myself, if you spend too much time thinking about the past good times, you forget that you're given the option to make new good times.
Mm.
So I'm like so much more interested in what I'm going to achieve tomorrow than what I achieved yesterday because I can't take that back. I can't do that project again. I can't charge that invoice again. I can't go back in time. This isn't Back to the Future. I can only go forward because time doesn't stop, right? And so using that variable, I'm like, all right, yesterday was yesterday, tomorrow's tomorrow, right? So let's just keep going. Let's keep moving forward. And also, it feels a little bit weird to be in an app that makes you feel like you're dead. So I'm like, I wasn't about it. I was like, yeah, this is completely out of my wants or needs.
So, what's your process of this mental reframe that you feel like it's been helping you?
Stop. Like when you go into all that, stop, go for a walk. Like stop. Biggest mistake is not stopping because if you don't stop, then you can't change your frame of mind. So just stop completely. Get up, go get a coffee, go to the bathroom, walk around the room. Like just get away from whatever you're doing at that exact point in time. And if possible, immediately. Right? And then the first two questions is cool, what am I feeling? And what can I do right now that's going to change what I'm doing? What's the easiest win?
Yep.
And the easiest win is stopping, right? So by doing that, just that simple, we've both read a lot of books and all this, and I'm really bad. I was thinking about this morning, knowing that this conversation was going to happen. And I'm really bad at remembering who said what and how they said it and which book. I've always been terrible at referencing. Like key point analyzing, the one common thread between everybody's frameworks is, and even old poets and artists, if nothing changes. Very simple concept.
Yep.
So if you just stay in your environment and you're feeling average, you're going to keep feeling average. This isn't rocket science. If it's hot outside, go inside. If you feel like you're drowning, get out of the water. Now, that often sounds a lot easier than it is. But the one thing that you can always do is put 2 feet on the ground and go for it.
Yeah.
So that's always like, it has been my process most recently. How about you?
Me?
What have been the key goals and focuses that you've been through in the past year? And what went well and what hasn't?
Let me see. Last year, when we had this conversation,
Yep.
I had only pretty much just started up running the Mayflower St. Leonard's at the time.
Yes.
It only just started in its first quarter. And then we pretty much wanted to blow it up from there and get the restaurant running and all those things.
Yep.
And since then, it's been a massive learning process, a massive learning curve. Because my background is the cafe background, right? And what we opened in St. Leonard's was a cafe restaurant. And the restaurant game is a different beast. Evenings, and not only that, we're trying to do an all-day dining, which is a morning to night, which is a double shift, 2 shifts, day and night.
Which is enormous, right? Yeah.
And challenging with staff, cash flow, all these things combined. Teams coming in and out, changing menus in and out, finding our feet, finding what model works for us in a new location, a new demographic, in a new geographic. It's a lot. It's been a lot. However, I think we found our feet. I think we found what model works and where we can shift our focus. And we've had to scale down compared to what we were doing before. When we first started off, we wanted to do a casual fine dining space. Pretty much, we had eight chefs in the kitchen. We had plenty of staff on the floor,
Yeah.
bartender, bar back, all those things. And it wasn't received as well as we thought with the market. And then with the changing of our chefs and stuff like that, it made it even more challenging. So then we had to change what we had to offer each and every time that we had a change in chefs. But we finally got to a model where we can run lean enough when we need to. But when it gets busy, because it's a big space, pretty much you can sit over 120 people inside and outside,
Yeah.
we can scale up if we need to as well. So
Okay.
I think we found the spot where we need to be and how to run this operation. So in a sense, the focus over the past year for the Mayflower at least has been to find our feet and to keep it running. And that is now moving forward into the next year as well, to keep it running.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. That's an interesting goal, considering it's like a prerequisite, right?
Yeah. As you and I both know, there's heaps of businesses going belly up at the moment for lease signs everywhere. It's
Everywhere.
a tough time. So being able to stay in the game is a big deal, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And man, on that, it's time for a shift. Like it has to change. The mode of operation, like it's just different. We're not getting any help. So you're running an operation. Most retail and service operations are running on a 3-day week, but you're paying 7 days worth of bills, which is, yeah, it's quite interesting. I never thought it would come to this, but it's obviously where we're at.
Yeah, talking about change, some world news that's changed dramatically over the past year since we last caught up is, well, last year we were all about NFTs and crypto, and that was a hot topic for us. And
Totally.
now, over the past 8 months or so, the rise in AI has been a really hot space, and that's changing up the game for sure. I know that you've been experimenting in that space. I know you've been
A lot.
researching and keeping up with
Yeah.
what's happening. What are you excited about in that space? What have you been using in that space? Let's get some thoughts from you.
Let's get sturdy in there. It's an interesting space. You know me, I'm a realist, I'm a romantic, and then I'm a skeptic all at the same time. Right? Realist in that I like to understand what technology does. Romantic in that I love the crafts. And then a skeptic in that I've been yelling at people saying crypto wasn't going to work since it launched. And those same guys aren't talking to me anymore because it all fell apart. Even though the space is still quite strong,
Yes.
the house of cards did fall. Again, still to be seen. AI, as we know, has been around for what, 25 years, 20 years? The Google Learning Platform was built on AI. The whole Alphabet company as a framework is built on AI. That's why Google has always been stronger than all the other search platforms. The very basis of how it worked was smarter. Knowing that framework works is so exciting. I still don't believe that half the art created is art because it's not controlled and it has no resale value. Well, at least not until Stable Diffusion finds a way to pay Getty Images for their lawsuit. So I'm not convinced that's completely a thing. Using, like I know you've been using Claude, like using ChatGPT and ChatGPT 4, the speed in which you're able to create framework to anything is absurd. Opening those programs, it tells you very quickly that it's not there to emote or create feeling, but if you put in a framework and said, hey, I want a training program for my staff based around Shanzung's art of war concepts, it can do that because it understands numbers and it understands data. Now, looking at ChatGPT 4 and the fact that you can start creating like pie charts using code, that's ridiculous. Yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting to believe where it's going. I don't think it's the solution for life, obviously, but it can definitely give us beautiful frameworks on knowledge because data's there. If Google can do it, based on depending on the word you use, it'll tell you the millions of sources that it has available to you or to it, then AI will definitely then become a simple part of the daily process.
Yeah.
I believe I can see ChatGPT taking over as your in-ear Siri or your in-ear Google, and you'd be asking questions directly to the platform as opposed to typing anything anywhere.
Yes. Yes. I think voice would be the next model for sure. Voice interaction.
Totally right. Totally. Yeah, like I was playing around with Oasis the other day, which didn't do what I wanted, but that's okay. But the fact that you can voice note anything and then get it to decipher that and turn it into clip notes or turn it into a text message or turn it into tweets if you wanted it, that's a bit wild.
Yeah.
Now, what does that mean in the long run? Your guess is as good as mine because it all comes down to user engagement.
Has it improved your daily life, do you think, in a sense, in any way?
I wouldn't say improved.
Whether personal or work? Yeah.
I can't say I've dived in deep enough to let it, if that makes sense. I'm probably still a little bit caught in my own routines, which has to change. But in terms of the work frameworks that I'm developing, it's totally improved. I've been trying to get a couple of projects off the ground for my businesses for years. So I decided to let chat do it, or at least start the project, and it created a base point. So now the project started, right? I no longer have an excuse. I think the thing that it will always lack is tone. Maybe not. Maybe we can train it down the line. But I'm still a stickler for sounding like me. And so until I can sound like me in text, then that'll always be my personal question, because otherwise we're all just writing with the same tone, right?
Right. So you're mentioning you were using it to pretty much get some ideas rolling that you've always wanted to execute on. If you can share, what are some of these exciting projects or launches that you have planned?
Oh man, we touched on this last year, and I've never believed it more. When it comes to business specifically, businesses are so caught up in selling based on their expertise that they forgot about their client, right? Now, the client, be it me, because I'm a client, to you, for example, or you, or the next person, all they need and all they want is to be educated, but they want to be educated on their terms. What I'm currently working on is what I'm personally calling emotional education, and finding ways to educate my clients in a way that doesn't make them feel like an idiot, because it's quite rude, and being sold to has never been more on the nose. So I'm working on a few just internal things on how to educate the user on terminology that exists in my industry, terminology that they can take away from my industry and use on their own because it's not exclusive to me, and methods and some of the madness, which is important so that they can educate themselves before they go into the process. Sometimes people come in here and I talk to them about wool because I'm a tailor, and in their head all they can imagine is a woolly sheep, and that seems hot. How can we reframe that whole process? So when I'm talking about the cooling properties of wool, then we go in informed. So I'm working around, and what I call the ABCs of tailoring. But how do you, again, frame something as childlike as the ABC in a smart way? Because we're not dumb, we're adults. Yeah.
So how are you planning to package this up? Is this going to be displayed in a video educational series format, or a blog post, or social media post, a combination of them?
It's a combination of all. I think video makes up half, conversation makes up a bit, video reference, because we've never been like more engaged with our eyes. But one thing I believe is completely unfounded is that memory makes up a lot of our purchasing, right? Or we know that, right? But when I speak to you about color, there's no theory around this, but our memories are built on what we know in terms of color. But if I said to you, the color red's different to you than it is to me. But if I said to you, Heinz tomato sauce, there's only one. If I said to you, there's only one Heinz tomato sauce. There's only one Golden Arches yellow. There's only one, I don't know, insert color here. Blueberries, they all look the same, right? Pear green, Granny Smith apple green, Kermit the Frog green. All those colors, we know them. I've been framing my referencing to color around food to my clients, and that seems to work. Everyone knows what mashed potato cream looks like because it looks the same. So that's one thing I've been working on. And also the other memory that a lot of us is based on movies. We know core characters. For the most part, most people know who the Walt Disney cricket is, and we know what he wears. For the most part, we can reference old actors because we know what they wore. So a lot of my framing's gone around memory, which is weird because I know I was rejecting that whole concept earlier with the chat about whist. But the senses, and I know you've done a lot of research around this, and retail does work around this a lot. The senses play such a big part as to what we know.
Mm-hmm.
But often when we're packaging things, we forget to use that. To me, it makes most sense because I like to believe that my offering is like delivering a menu as opposed to, as
I
opposed
think
to
that's
selling a product.
it's a very smart way to go about it. I think using these universal associated memories that people have to describe and communicate what you're offering, I think is very valuable. It reminds me, have you ever watched a show called Billions?
I have not.
No.
I've been told I should.
It's a pretty good show, but what I find really fascinating and interesting in that dialogue is the use of metaphors and references in their conversations is second to none. And it allows you to paint like a more detailed image when they're communicating through the use of that particular language. And I think, if you're able to communicate with that, but it like you said, it just creates a lot more detail in that person's mind that's more accurate to what they're to be expected.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, that's right. Because you're setting precedent, right? Now, we got a problem if they don't know what we're talking about.
Yes.
But one can only hope. One can only hope.
That's
It'd
it.
be really cool if I could package a smell like bacon and eggs into a video, but we're not quite there yet. Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, the whole conversation in my mind at the moment is based around the re-education of brand and person, and what does that look like? How do you experience buying as opposed to a shop selling? How do I swap that to the end user? How do we create a funner time for the person that's working with me? Also, that's because I don't like selling. So selling's such a yuck concept.
However, in your line of work, it's a tailoring biz, so there's a lot of personal interaction and people coming in to connect with you and communicate with you. It's a
Correct.
it's a very, how do I say? Obviously, it's a service-based business, but the experience is there. No, it's a different experience
Yeah.
to I would dare say a lot of other businesses because there's a lot of personal touch. Just thinking about my experience personally with you in the past, it feels like you're connecting with someone on a much deeper level and them understanding you.
Yeah.
So I'd say
Yeah. But
what
and
you're doing is already quite experience based.
yeah, I guess my question is, how do we take it to the next level? And how does the client take control of the system? How do they become more paramount in the success of the process? Not that I want to extract myself from the process, but yeah, is there a way to make this automated? It's not the right word, but if we are working in a space where people don't want to go back to work, right? Which is the problem statement, as in physically. Okay, so how do we get them to experience work without having to go back to work?
Yep.
Those same people might be my clients and they don't necessarily want to come to the store in the initial. So how do we get them to do so down the line, but still have the same interaction and the same feedback? And is there a way to make it better? Like, is this whole concept of not having to be in front 2 or 3 times actually a better solution?
I guess that's the challenge that you're working on, right? It's the code they're trying to crack. Code to
Yeah,
crack.
it's totally a me. It's totally a me problem. And maybe where I do say this often, maybe it's too big a question to ask, and maybe I don't have the answer. But
Not yet.
not yet. No, mate. I'm watching businesses around me, and again, everybody's concentrating on opening bigger, more. I couldn't think of anything worse. When we're talking about overconsumption, and businesses are trying to take over more, I'm like, what's wrong with you? Like, the inefficiency is already there. Make this easier for your consumer. Be nice to them. Don't make it more difficult. I don't know. I might be wrong. I've always been told I do think a little bit differently. Yeah, how can I be more efficient and therefore provide a better experience to the client? I think we owe them. That's what we owe to the people, whoever they might be, current client, new customer, whatever. If the paradigm shift has happened, which we keep hearing it has, then I can't sit here asking for it to change back because it might never happen. So, what's the best way to adapt? In a way that works for everybody, because I'm still like wanting to do things my way. It can't always be skewed one way, because that way someone's compromising. Be it quality, service, price, whatever. But yeah, man, I don't know. I'm really interested in finding where this all lives and where it all sits together. And more importantly, can I do my whole job? That'd be great.
Yeah, it is a challenging new space that we're in. Trying to do things differently than the past because times are changing, right? And it's a new norm that we live in. And we just have to
Totally.
figure it as we go.
Totally.
Yeah, and with the rapid rise in so many different things, the whole landscape is going to look very differently in the next 1 or 2 years, let alone the next 5 years.
Totally. Yeah. Like I know you've been using AI as a tool. My question is, well, same back to you. How are you finding it is changing your day to day? And you did mention last year we were talking about crypto and we we're talking about NFTs. Is there a risk that AI is just the next tech fad?
I don't think AI is another tech fad. And for that matter, I don't think cryptos and NFTs are a tech fad either. Although in the
Agreed.
news it was.
Correct. So that's better said.
And with AI, like you said, it's been around for a long time. It's not like it's brand new. However, the user interface and the approachability and usability of ChatGPT made it more widespread, more mass adoption. And I think it's great. Although mass adoption in this sense is still not that mass adoption. It's just a lot more people are familiar with
Yeah.
it or starting to play around with it. I guess it's still not a huge percentage yet. But
Sure, we're talking 2% of the world.
I don't think it's going anywhere and it's only going to excel from here because it's already in its very early stage, has made quite an impact on the way people think and the way people learn and the way people do things, even at its very infant stage, which it is, I believe, at the moment.
Yep. Yep.
And so we haven't even really seen what it can really do. And personally, for me, I'm already super excited for what it is at the moment. And even if
Yeah.
learning, even if it didn't progress any more than it did from right now, it would already still continue to change lives and the environment
Correct.
and the way we do things. But it's not just, it hasn't stagnated. It's actually progressing at a compounded rate that we've never seen
Yep.
before. No, I don't think it's going anywhere at all. I think that's the reason why it's going to stay. In terms of daily use, it's I use it every day, Dad. I use it
Yeah.
every day. Every day I'm on it. Over the past 9 weeks now, I launched another newsletter called AI for Me and You.
Yep.
And all it is basically each week I write a blog post, record an audio, a little short walkthrough YouTube video about an AI application, whether it's in business or life. And I share it with people. And I do that because it forces me to experiment on a weekly. It forces me to research on the weekly. What's happening in this space? How is it useful? What can I do with it? What's worth sharing that's useful for the people? And because I'm positioned myself in that space, I've been learning more and more daily applications, from how can I apply it in my business? How can I apply it in my personal
Yeah. Okay.
life? How can I make my life easier? Or how can I make more money using this? All these things.
Yeah.
But I say it has completely changed the way I think about flows and work processes and writing, training, even in meetings. I remember I had a recent meeting, and I don't even know that I do this until the other person goes, "Holy crap, what just happened?" I had a meeting the other day with a possible collaborator for the business, and we were just thinking, oh, how can we collaborate? What ideas do we have? And I was like, you know what? A lot of the ideas we're coming up with are quite boring. What
Yeah.
if we got some AI help? So, popped in their business link, got it to just digest and understand what their business is about, digested what the Mayflower is about, and then asked it for some ideas to collaborate on. And then it just listed out a
Yeah.
whole bunch of
Wow.
things. Which ones do you guys like? Which one do I like? Okay, let's hone in on 2 of the 3 of these points. Okay, now let's brainstorm together furthermore. All right, so using those 2, it goes, oh, you can do that. Oh, we can do that. Let's add this, let's add that. And ultimately, we come out with a much more better idea than than us two could ever come up with right at the beginning. So
Yeah.
it's not verbatim in terms of just taking what ChatGPT said, but it's it giving us the ideas that we can expand upon together. And that tool used as a guide is very powerful. It really helps kickstart especially the inertia a lot of people experience at the beginning about what do I do next or what can I do.
Yeah. Okay.
Giving it that little push has been very helpful in my day-to-day process.
Yeah. Okay. So, would you say that it kicks off your day-to-day creative process? Do you use it as
Yes,
tool like
yeah,
step two? Because obviously step one's writing a brief, right? And you can
yeah,
only write the brief. So step
yeah.
two would be give me 10 answers to this.
So in terms of put it this way, I did a quick recap the other night. I was like, okay, so I'm currently running 2 restaurants, two 2 newsletters, 2 podcasts, and running 2 breathwork meditation classes a week. Just all in twos, right?
Yep.
So
That's a lot.
all of that, I thought about it, and every single one of them, I use AI in some shape or form. Like for example, with
Yeah,
the
wow.
restaurants, with ideas from training to replying to emails to outreaches, collaborating with my colleagues, I often get them to use GPT to help formulate something so that we don't have to sit around finalizing things. It's just got draft it up. This is what we need to do. Get it to draft it up. Let's review it. Okay, send, done.
Yeah.
Create these outreaches for these people. Get GPT to do the heavy lifting. We revise, send it out, done. With the podcast now, with a lot of the questions, I use GPT to do research on the person I'm interviewing. I actually use it to find who to interview, even,
Really?
and then I'll narrow it down. Okay, those are the people I'm going to select. What are they about? What questions could I ask them? How can I add my own flair to it? So I then add my own taste and flavor to it. Then making it my own to ask. I use it in editing. All the editing afterwards is a lot of it's done through AI software as well.
Yep.
Same with the newsletters. Writing newsletters is, like you said, I come up with a brief. It does the main part of the writing. I refine, and then I click send. Even with the breathwork and meditation these days, I've been using it to come up with the part segment of some of the visualizations.
Oh, really?
Give me some visualization scripts that I can go through, and I'll select some and modify some and make it my own for part of the practice.
Yep.
Like one thing I haven't been able to do in the past as well, for example, when I'm doing the breathwork and meditation, one of the pieces I do is I curate every class now, depending on how people are
Yeah,
feeling.
okay.
Before they start the class, I ask them to write down one word of how they're feeling. And through that, I'm able to curate the class particularly for that room. Okay, I'll go, okay, if that's how they're feeling, this is the type of breath work I'll be more heavy on. If that's how they're feeling, these are the key words. These will be how I curate this new visualization piece on. And it's become a lot more customized practice rather than
Yeah, okay.
blanket practices. So that's how heavily AI has impacted my personal work and flow. It's touched on a lot of points, and this is just the beginning. So I feel like
Yes.
it's going to be a lot more heavier later.
Yeah, okay. That's cool. Now, how do you feel like it'll be integrated into our day to day? In honest, apart from knowing that it'll almost be our eyes.
I think eventually everyone will just have their own personalized Jarvis,
Yeah, okay.
trained on
That's
their data, their model, their view, because then it's basically a customized AI personal assistant to help you do things that you need to get done.
yep. Sorry for anyone that
And
didn't get
then,
that reference. That's Tony Stark's mate.
and otherwise, businesses and stuff would go for particularly tuned models as consultants if they need work done. And they would hire an AI consultant in a sense to help them do more specific things when they need to niche in.
Yeah, which would make sense. Now, I think we touched on this. For years, social media has been the the driver of all life. Anyone that says they don't use social media is lying because you kind of have to, right? Even the fact that you're not using social media means that you're using social media by pure virtue of extraction. Do you think there will be like an extra person to hire?
I think there's a lot of businesses. We're quite a small business, right? So we don't really consider this stuff just yet. But
Yeah,
like
totally.
we try to take it on ourselves. But I think larger companies are in a race to understand what's happening with AI. Like, how do we
Yep.
implement this? How do we get this done? And as you were talking about, social media has been a big driver in business. Like, it's been an essential arm, and then they've had to have their own essential departments, a social media arm that takes care of all that
Yeah.
stuff, or outsourcing it to contractors on a retainer, however you want to do that. But with AI, I think is going to be another part. You've been hearing this whole prompt engineering job title, and apparently they've been getting paid upwards of 300 grand, something crazy. And I think Netflix just released something they're looking for an AI person and going to pay 900 grand. It's some pretty crazy salary
I
packages out there.
quit. Tell them I take it.
So the roles are definitely rolling out for people to pick up, but it's going to be essential for a lot of these businesses to have departments of AI to implement and build and understand and make sure that the company is running as efficiently as they can and as productively
Yeah.
as they can with this tech.
Yeah. It's interesting because it almost becomes like the very people that it's trying to replace are the ones that are still trying to teach it. Like we need the human to teach the tech, which is still teaching the human. It's quite cyclical
Yeah. Like a lot of,
because we're the dumbest part of it.
yes.
Like that we're the like again. I do not just play. I'm quite experimental in this space, and especially in art creation. I'm having the conversations, and they're like, "So that's art you created?" I said, "No, I'm not skilled enough to be the painter." And they're like, "Yeah, but you just created a painting." I said, "No, I didn't. No chance, no way in hell." Because technically, the image created is a reference point based on millions of painters
Mm.
in order to create. So it is the sum total of X amount of variables.
Yep.
So in the art creation space, the onus of the owner is quite different to, in the particular case that we're talking about, you're using it to put together a training module, right? Let's say
Mm.
it's in the health and medical space or the health and food space. Realistically, ChatGPT could just be referencing every single food safety manual that has existed across the modern time, across the whole world, right?
Mm.
Like it's Google on steroids, but we're still
So
controlling it, which is the funny part. Because we're the dumb ones.
yeah, AGI is not really here yet.
No, right?
But yeah, it's this whole interesting space, and I'm curious to see the windfalls that will come out of this space as well.
Yeah, okay. But do you see it in a positive or a negative?
Positive, positive. Like
Yeah,
a lot of big companies now have frozen hiring. They're just basically keeping their current workforce and retraining them how to use AI so that they can become more
yeah, okay.
efficient and produce more with the same amount of workforce. And
Yeah,
this is on top of them laying off thousands of staff already, some of these big companies,
totally, totally.
because now they know they can do more with less and they don't
Of
need that
course.
many people.
Does that mean we need to become more skilled in what we do?
Depending on what industry you're in, I can't imagine an industry that is not going to be impacted by it, but I feel like there's going to be a possible divide between people who understand how to use it and people who don't understand how to use it.
Yeah, okay.
And if you're looking for work and you're going into an industry where they use it heavily, which I think a lot of industries will, who do you think they're going to hire? A person who has no idea about it or is being ignorant to it, or a person who knows how to leverage it to produce more work?
Yeah, okay.
It's a it's an easy pick in that sense.
Yeah. So does that mean that just in general, it was just us, all of us, just need to become more tech savvy?
I guess tech savvy.
Or does the
I guess this
technology need, like,
adoption.
does the technology need
It's
to work? Like I tried to use Google Notes as dictate the other day, which was done. Sorry, Apple Notes as dictate, which was done, but I just couldn't be bothered using ChatGPT. And what it threw back at me was pretty rudimentary, and it was annoying. And some of it, I'm like, I don't even know what I was saying, like, because it didn't pick it up anywhere near
yeah.
correctly, right? So there's, I better not talk badly about Siri. She might turn on me, but
I reckon. By the way, I reckon Siri's going to get some serious upgrades soon.
Siri's Jarvis, right? Siri's got to be Jarvis.
Yes,
She'll be the
I mean that's
smartest
what
one of them all.
we all hope. That's what we all hope. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just different. Apple's is a little different to all the other companies in the AI space at the moment. So they're heavily
yeah,
hiring AI researchers and trying to get on board and all those things. And I'm sure they'll come up with something amazing, as they always do.
yeah,
But I think the AI games they're more of a research company versus an engineering company.
yeah.
It's a different ball game. But yeah, anyway, a lot of these models are open source, so they'll probably adopt an open source model and then develop on it for their own thing. I
That's
think.
true, right? Everything's technically free.
How have you grown on a personal level over the past year? Or how will that impact your outlook and mindset?
It's been another weird year, obviously, but the new one is the boundaries. You and I talk about that. Yeah, for years, people say you need to learn when to say no. I still think that's a little bit of horseshit, for lack of a better term. because I'm always predisposed to help. But it's about how I say yes.
Mm.
Yeah, the learning when to say no, that sounds like some guru noise to me. But I trained it now to how I say yes. And that's become enormous because it's yes on my time. Because it's still a yes answer. People know to ask me things because I'm going to react positively because it's what I'm here to do. It's what I'm good at. I like to help. I like to be of service. I like to assist. I believe it's one of our roles as humans. But I'll be like, cool, I'll do that in 3 days, or I'll do that in a week, or I'll do that during this time. That's essentially been the biggest thing that's changed for me. Now, and why that's going to change or how it's changing my future is in the same way. Like, I constantly talk about life as a business, but I've been doing this for a long time. Understanding your value doesn't necessarily mean a monetary thing and doesn't also necessarily mean it's an ego-driven thing, but sometimes it's making people understand your value to yourself. Right? Now, stern no's don't help anybody. The word itself is so negative that nothing positive can come from it. But a measured yes is way more developing, positive in its framing, and impactful to any situation. That's something I've spent pretty much the last 12 months looking at. That also came from wasting a lot of time, or realize I've been wasting a lot of time trying to put those two things together. What I say yes to, at what time, and how much time I spend doing that.
Yeah. A yes man with a schedule.
Mate, it's pretty much it. I am a yes man because I love having projects on. I don't know how not to have a project on. I genuinely don't. And some people are like, oh, that's a little bit ADD, or that's your OCD. And I'm like, oh, until those things are diagnosed, you're all a bunch of losers. Stop Google diagnosing because you think you're neat. Shut up. The truth is, I'm just like, man, I like to be busy. I enjoy it. It's part of my life. It's fun. If I can make time for somebody's project, I'll do it. But I also run 2 businesses. I'm involved in multiple projects. So my time's busy. And unless it's fulfilled in a positive way, I just don't think you should be doing it. Like, just me, you, anybody. Like, if value is not being bought, then what are you doing it for? And sometimes that value is resetting. Sometimes that value is a glass of wine. Sometimes that value is a useless chat. But being more deliberate with time, considering we're running out of it, it's never been more important. It's becoming more and more important to me. But that's also coming from a person that's been extremely frivolous with time. I've wasted so much time over my life. I'll be the first person to put my hand up and admit to that. So now it's about being more deliberate with it. And the beautiful thing is that you can choose when to change. And if you choose to change right now, then that's great. Again, if nothing changes, unless I make that deliberate choice now, then nothing's going to change. And then I'll be having this chat to you next year and I'll be pissed off about wasting time. But yeah, it's interesting.
Do you track your time besides the calendar way? Are you one of those guys that lists down what they do by the hour or anything like that? Or
Kevin, if I tracked my time if I audited my time, I'd probably have a nervous breakdown. No, I don't. I'm the worst at it. But hey, for all our listeners out there, because I know you do, because you're really good at it. what would be a tool I should use? Because I'm going to download it like now.
No, I don't use any fancy tools, Dan. It's just
Okay.
literally Apple Notes and Excel sheets. I'm a freak when it comes to this, and I don't even know if I want to share this publicly. Everyone's going to be thinking like, Kev,
No,
you're
this is
just
great.
nut. You're an absolute nut. Holy cow.
Well, so you what? Okay, you track time to how long?
Okay. So my process is the night before, I always plan out the next day.
Okay.
I don't track the time and go, okay, from 9 to 10, I'm doing this. From 10 to 11, I'm doing this, or anything like that. I'll just go, okay, morning routine,
Yeah.
podcast recording with Dan, Mayflower stuff, errands, go pick up this meeting. That's got to happen. And it's just all blocked out all the way to the evening, meditation class, evening, like time with Ro, then evening routine, more reading, stuff like that. So that's just an overview, high level layout in terms of done every night before the day. But that gives me the direction. So I'm not jumping from left to right. I know what I need to do. And not all those tasks gets ticked off. Sometimes things get in the way, things go over time, and I'll have to cut things out to make it in time for the other things.
Yep.
However, recently I've been experimenting with a busy work audit. And this is something I got from a book called Automate Your Busy Work. And basically, I'm looking for ways or where I'm seeing where the inefficiency in my times are. So for the last 2 weeks, for example, I've been going, okay, when I say I'm busy, what am I actually doing during that time?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm busy now. So from the last 1.5 hours, I've been busy. What have I been doing? Setting up the questions with Dan, setting up my podcast setup, then connecting with Dan, and then pack everything up. So that's going to be over the last 1.5 hours, for example. And then my next busy period is
Correct.
I've got to go get this before I get to that saw, and then I'm going to have this meeting. So essentially, I'm just logging my on an hour and a half basis what that busy period looks like and what the workflow of that in particular looks like. Because what I'm trying to understand is how much time is wasted on doing things that I could have done it differently.
Okay.
And it's just shedding light, like just putting spotlights on those areas of my workflow
Beautiful.
that I can improve and make more efficient. And then at the end of every day, I do what I think I might have mentioned this in the last year as well. I do what a JC log. And the JC log, I call it JC log because this comes from Jim Collins, from the author of Good to Great.
Yeah.
And the date, I put the date and then what I've done in that day, which I pretty much copy and paste from the list I did the night
From your
before.
to-do list.
But then from my to-do list, but I've updated it as the day goes. How I felt that day in terms -2 being the end of the world, -1 shit day, 0 neutral, 1 good day, 2 great day. And so I can see how those activities impact how I feel that day. I logged the amount of creative hours as well.
Yeah. Okay.
And then, okay, how much hours I put in for creative hours, how much hours I'm spending with loved ones and family. What I measure that as well in terms of how many hours I put towards that. Because I want to make sure that I'm splitting time between creative work and time with loved ones. And so those are my 3 kind of hourly metrics. And then at the end of the week, I do a resources audit. So that's when I go, okay, I use the stats from my Aura ring, like the one you're wearing with you right now.
Yep.
What was my readiness score that week? What was my
Give us a
sleep score
sponsorship,
that week?
Aura.
And how many hours did I do of work that week? How many creative hours did I do that week? And how many hours did I spend with family and loved ones that week? So then I know, okay, on a week-to-week basis, this week was really skewed up. This week I've spent all my time doing work and no time with loved ones, no time for creative work. What the hell was happening this week?
Yep.
My sleep was off. My readiness levels were off. What threw everything off this week? How can I make sure that this doesn't happen
Yeah,
again next week?
there's got to be something. Yeah.
Yep. And in a high level overview nutshell, that's what my tracking looks like.
You're a freak.
It's not for everyone, put it that way, for sure.
Yeah, but it's a good way to keep things on track, right? Because otherwise you end up like
It works
me.
for me, yeah.
Yeah, you end up like me where all your time just goes everywhere. And then you're like, I don't even know what I did for this month. Even though all the work gets done.
Yeah, it's just different approaches, right? There is no right, wrong. It's just
No.
one particular style that I'm attracted to, more about efficiency and how I can do things differently. I just don't trust myself in a way to do like this and that and not think about it. I feel like all this recording helps me reflect in a sense.
Yep. I agree more. That's why I asked. It's a realization I've made like very holistically, like over the weekend. And I'm like, time for a new change.
Let's talk about some things outside of work related. What are some new skills or any challenges you've taken on unrelated to work?
I read this question and I don't do that.
So I don't do anything unrelated to work. This is not what I do.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like my whole life is designed. Someone asked me what my hobbies were, and I'm like, hobbies? I'm not saying.
All right, I'll shift the question.
Yeah.
Or do you want to have a crack at it?
Please, no, I'll have half a crack at it. No, because like AI is fun to me, like the image creation, but because I'm a creative, it's what I do.
Yeah.
But it's almost impossible for me not to end up relating it back to work.
Yeah. I hear you.
I don't woodwork. I don't cook. Like, I don't understand these concepts because when we're talking about the efficiencies of life, it's all about, I'm probably like, I don't understand work-life balance. It's something I genuinely can't get through my head. Like for years, I've spoken to people about it, multiple business owners. People are like, what do you do for, I don't know, go to the gym? People are like, what are you reading? And I'm like, this based on this. But it all relates to work because I'm the work. The creative practice is me. So all skills point to being a better me. I've said this for years. At my end of days, I just want to be a holistic creative.
Yeah.
That's the end.
The joy is in the creation. Yeah.
Totally. And it does get a bit testing because people are like, do you always think about work? I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
That's why we get along.
Totally. But then my same question is, what the hell do you think's paying for dinner tonight? Like, one hand feeds the other. But I don't know. I like drinking cocktails. Is that a hobby?
Well, that's part of the next question. What is something that makes you really happy outside of work? Is that a cocktail?
A good cocktail. Oh, I will chase.
What's your favorite cocktail?
Oh man, I will chase a gin dry martini with a twist to the end of the earth.
Yeah,
like
that's your drink, eh?
Always, that's my drink. Has been for years. It started as a joke. Actually, no, it didn't start as a joke. It started because I thought it was cool, and I never understood it. And now, as the years progress, it is my cocktail of choice. Yeah, I'll chase one of those to the end of days. It's sharp. It's very deliberate. It is what it is. Like but when it's wrong, it's completely wrong. And I don't know. There's something interesting like me. Completely inappropriate when wrong, but when it's right, it's completely right. It's great. But yeah, I don't know. I'd like to make more time to travel or something. I don't know. I don't get it. I don't know. I got asked the other day if I'd like to go visit a tiny home, and I said no. Just give me more hours to think about what I'm not doing.
Sometimes creating the space, though, it gives you the room to come up with solutions,
Correct.
or it just gives you more room to tackle. For me, at least, it gives me space to think about challenges that I'm facing. It's okay. How am I going to come up with stuff? How am I going to do things differently? Because when I'm in the work and I'm busy, I don't get the space, the mental space to come up with things all the time. I feel like sometimes it helps to just get away.
Yeah. No, you're 1 billion% correct. But it's where do I find that time? Again, this is why this thing, tracking time. We're like, be better at it.
Tail end of the recording now, Dan. Just probably 2 more questions, and then we'll cap it off.
Perfect.
Before our listeners fall asleep, which they probably already have.
I'm sure you'll make this all nice and neat.
I'm going to ask this one because I think a lot of people are wanting something like this at the moment. What is your favorite way to unwind and practice self-care?
Oh, okay. Good question.
And I wonder if that's changed compared to last year.
My favorite way to unwind at the moment is to walk home from wherever I am. Like, at the moment. It doesn't matter where I am, as long as I'm within walking distance, of course, which generally would be in my brain. Anywhere longer than an hour is not walking distance.
Yep.
Right? But at the moment, that's my favorite way to unwind. I'll pick something to listen to, and I'll just head home. Yeah. It gives me enough time to clear my mind. The routine in the walk, because there's not many ways that I can walk home, sets mental notes and mental space where my brain needs to be before I get to my house.
Yeah.
Yeah. That seems to be the best way that works at the moment. Otherwise, I work out. Like, I'm not working out as heavy and as much as I'd like to at the moment. Probably only getting about 3 or 4 sessions in a week.
That's pretty decent.
I find that helps. Yeah. By my standards. By old standards. Sorry, better said. Here we go. Hobbies. I recently started playing video game again. I give myself an hour every 2 days. I'm playing Diablo.
Which game?
It's great.
Diablo.
Great game.
I have no idea what number it's up to at the moment.
Yeah, it's at 4. It's at 4. I got told to buy the new one. So I'm playing that if I've got to spend 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Nothing more than an hour and no consecutive days. Because then we're just wasting time. Like, I'm very conscious that I've got things to do. But running around mindlessly slaying other people, it's great. And then the old one, Kev, man, like the same one as we always speak about, stopping just before going to bed. Picking up a book, reading 15 pages, going to bed. Whatever it is, I think the biggest thing, we alluded to it at the start. For many years, I think where I failed in the unwind and all that is that I was putting so much pressure on it. And about for me, having too much routine is not great. It just doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So I was trying to change myself, and it just wasn't working. And then I'd fail, and when I'd fail miserably, and then I'd reset after 2 or 3 months, and then I'd go back to this routine, and then again fail and fail miserably, and then so on and so forth. Now it's about finding time to stop. And I'm the world's worst sleeper. Yeah, like last night, I said, you know what? Played a little bit of video games after doing some work. I was nodding off whilst doing the work. So I said, okay, stop, go to bed, pick it up in the morning. And yeah, I just stopped. went to bed, lay there for about 20 minutes, relaxed, didn't do anything. Had to think about the day, had to think about what I want to achieve today, had to think about what I was going to talk to you about. Already had a bit of that mentally in my brain, even though I knew where the questions might be going. And doing that, I think the pressure to have it all worked out is becoming more and more, be it the best holistic life, be it the best morning or night routine, be it the best diet or the best work structure or the best of whatever. But the beauty of what we have as people is a little bit of dynamic thought, right? So I'm a little bit hybrid with it all, where one day I'll choose that and then the next day I'll choose that. You know, sometimes it's 11 p.m. and I can't go to bed. I put my training gear on and I go to the gym. That's a lot of people, that's absurd. I'll get home from the gym at 1:45 in the morning. Have a shower, go to bed. Like,
Yeah.
but again, that just works for me because I'm a bit weird that way.
Who is someone that has had a positive impact on you in the past year, personally or professionally?
Good question. You were always a big one there because we do chat a lot.
I promise I wasn't fishing for that.
Sure. No, we do get to talk and we touch base a lot because we share a lot of likes. Then I've got a friend, Dave Katage. I'm going to introduce you to him. You should talk to him in terms of the AI space. And actually, you should probably interview him for your podcast. Dave Katage is a friend, filmmaker, first and foremost, but he does a lot of framework training and work in the NLP space. So, yeah, that guy's a bit of a freak when it comes to that kind of thing. And so we talk a lot based on efficiencies of work and launch frameworks and prompt writing and just general business ideas. I'm also not on the how to do business because we run very different practices, but just in the efficiencies and thoughts and getting out of negative space. So he's been hugely influential in my year. Yeah, you should talk to him. He's a dude.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, hook us up. I'll definitely connect.
I will. Yeah, I'm going to send you those deets. Yeah, link up with him, man. He's definitely worth talking to. Sometimes
Thanks, man.
Yeah, his prompt writing at the moment is, it's pretty next level. It's scary.
Mate, before we wrap up for the day, was there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to chat about?
Yeah. Personally, I've been in this really interesting mental space where everything's based on mindset and time space. So, yeah, dude, I think we covered that enough. Obviously, this is an ongoing concept and the way of living. I don't know. It's just like telling everybody to keep having a good time. Stop not having fun. Not having fun is lame. Have fun. Doesn't mean going out and getting drunk. Have a good ass time doing it. I don't know. I wish I should eat more I keep thinking to myself, I need to eat more cupcakes or cheesecake or something. Just got this weird idea that having fun means cupcakes. And I don't know why, and I don't know where that comes from. But we will pick this conversation up because it'll be my turn to interview you next time. I know the listeners, whilst they do listen to you, yeah, you've got a lot to teach everybody. Sometimes you don't tell us enough. Or you don't tell them enough because you're spending too much time interviewing people.
That's part of being a podcaster. But look, we are going to do our 4th year anniversary next year. We'll check in.
We've got to do the follow-up.
Next year for sure. And so some last words.
Yeah.
Make a call so that next year it's going to happen. What's your call?
Ooh. As in me, for me?
Yeah, for you, or you can call it on something else, some prediction, anything you want to do, and we'll revisit it next year and see if it happened.
Oh, I'm not. Oh man, I'm not profound enough to freaking talk about that kind of stuff. I'm a reactive. I'm a reactive societal technologist. I keep abreast of what's happening and I move with it if I choose. Oh, that's a big question. That's a good one. You make a call first, and then I'll freaking follow up.
All right. Okay, I'll call this. All right. This time next year, when I release this podcast, we're going to be speaking in Chinese and Spanish and all different languages.
Okay.
It's going to be released in more than 5 different languages. The same podcast in our tone of voice. I'll call that.
Yeah, cool. That'll be cool. Yeah. Okay. Oh, here we
Imagine
go.
that.
That'll be wild. Next year, we won't be sitting in the same place as we are today, making the call.
Yes.
I'm not quite sure what that looks like, but I feel like there's going to be a change of space.
For me, definitely. However, this background is going to look the same. I'm just going to take this with me wherever we go.
Just that one guy. I like it. I like it.
Yeah.
Was that soundboard thing from... Exciting times. It is.
Yeah. That's it.
The canvas.
Yeah, the canvas. That's right. Canvas.
Thought so.
Lovely, as always. Much love to you, buddy. Thank you for your time. I know that you're a busy guy, and so I always appreciate when you say yes to these things, and I don't take it for granted.
Thank you. No, that's what we're here for, man. And yeah, I'll send some notes. I will send you Dave's details, and we'll pick this up. We'll pick this chat up in the next couple of days anyways.
No worries. Take care, my friend.
Thanks for your time, brother.
Thanks for tuning in, everyone. I hope you enjoyed the show. All the links to the show notes will be available at kevinleesocial.com, spelled Kevinly. Conversely, if you have any interviews that you'd love to recommend, please send it over to kevinleesocial@gmail.com. I'd love to connect. Thank you. Until the next episode.